Hello guys, so here I'm back again with another Escalation Tier 10 video. This time I'm gonna be doing DARPA Research Lab. So for my build I'm using 4-piece striker, all pieces have echo, critical hit damage, and I'm using the backpack and the chest piece. For the gloves I'm using Exodus glove because these things are best in slot for solo play. I'm also using Sheska knee pads also with echo and with almost maxed out DPS stats. I'm using double MK46, both have echo, critical hit chance, and frenzy. That way I'm able to deal with the variety pack modifier, and I'm using the quick step as my sidearm. I'm using the reviver hive along with the decoy, and for my seasonal modifier it's already maxed out. I'm using the invincible active modifier, and I'm using munitions belt, surge drive, and contagion passive modifiers. So yeah, let's start with the video. Now in general I think that DARPA Research Lab is a tricky mission. Do I think this is the hardest mission, the hardest escalation mission in the game? Like, no, but it's definitely pretty tricky for all of the encounters. An example of this is the first encounter. So the idea is that I will throw a decoy right on the middle of the room, and I will be dealing with all of the enemies from the place where I'm currently standing at. There's around 2 waves of enemies, and most of the time you shouldn't have too much of an issue. But if you get unlucky and the enemies constantly get suppressed, like is going to happen in this run, this encounter can go from a 1 minute encounter at most to something like a 2 minute encounter. So, yeah, well, not 2 minutes exactly, but like something like a minute and a half. It can go pretty slow. So, the idea is that if you don't get too unlucky with the enemy cover, you stay on the beginning part, right where I was staying at, and you should have a pretty good line of sight to deal with the second enemy wave. Now let's try to kill the last enemy. And I forgot there was also a purple. I tried to use the gun trick where I was pretty much just use that weapon to deal with the last enemy and don't have to use some of my high quality ammo stacks. But as I said, I got pretty unlucky with all of the suppressed enemies, and I had to use a whole mag of LMG ammo. And even then it wasn't enough to kill the guy. Here we go. So that was pretty much the first encounter on the first room. As I said, we can do it a little bit faster, but anyways. Another thing that I will say about DARPA is that there isn't that many loot crates around the mission. Like, I look all around on my multiple runs, and I think I only found around 5 gear loot drops throughout the mission. Let me remind you, those gear boxes that you can open throughout the mission, they can also drop prototype gear. And it's pretty important that you open them, especially when doing an escalation tier 10 run, so that you have more chances of getting whatever targeted loot you are going for. In this video, the targeted loot for DARPA was actually LMGs, so yeah, it was a pretty good, a decent mission to farm. Also, unfortunately, unlike other days, I think the escalation mission rotation for this week is a lot sweatier than I would have liked. All of the missions are pretty difficult or tricky, with the exception of Camp White Oak. That's unfortunate. I thought last week had a pretty good amount of missions to farm. So anyways, going back again with the mission, for this next encounter, I suggest that you have full LMG ammo, because you're gonna be dealing with a ton of enemy waves and you won't have that many chances to grab the LMG ammo drops. So as we start, we're gonna drop a decoy right in the middle, and we're gonna stay right on this column. I like to start over there, so that way I can get a pretty decent line of sight against the drones without those drones trying to shoot at me. After you destroy the drones, you're gonna get a Black Tusk enemy wave, and I always die because I'm never sure if the enemy on my right is going to be a rusher. If it is a rusher, like that dive that I did, it's pretty much going to help me not proc my Exodus glove like I just did on that on the video, as well as protecting my Hellgate, which I think is the most important part from using something like Exodus. Like, more than the smoke bomb is protecting your Hellgate and have more chances to to withstand fatal enemy damage. So anyways, after you finish the progress bar for the first terminal, you're gonna get around like 2-3 black dust enemy waves and 2 drone waves. We are gonna be dealing with all of the NPCs before going towards the next terminal. You won't be getting any NPCs after you kill all the NPCs from doing the first terminal. So there it is, there's no NPCs as long as you don't interact with the second terminal. That should give us a decent amount of time to grab some of the ammo drops that are on the ground. And once you finish grabbing those, we're gonna interact with the terminal. We're gonna go to this piece of cover, and this is the best place to deal with the drones. Now there's only going to be 1 drone wave and 1 black dust wave, and those waves have the chance that they can spawn simultaneously. So in my case, in this video, they almost spawn simultaneously. You gotta be careful with the enemies on your right. Those enemies have the tendency to try to flank you. And usually the enemies that try to flank you are the grenadier guys. Those guys are pretty annoying, so try to be careful, suppress them if you can, so that they don't pose any threat to you while you are hacking the second terminal. And once you kill all the NPCs, we're gonna stay right on that column, and we're gonna wait for the last enemy spawn. They always spawn on that door over there. There's always 3 black tusk guys. I was a little bit unfortunate that I wasn't able to kill everyone without proccing my Exodus Lob. But after that I managed to kill them. Now we're gonna interact with the button. And we're gonna continue with our mission. I did look around all of those rooms on this hallway, but I didn't find any gear, loot, or at least that I remember of, so that's why I skip it on this run. I suggest killing those 2 guys with the gunner thing that I use, and the gear chest is pretty much where I aim. You can interact with the door, and there's a chest right on there. That's another chance at getting prototype gear, but as I said, I already got it on a previous run. And for next room, I also suggest that you fill out your LMG ammo, because there are gonna be a ton of enemies. It's very likely that you're gonna run out of LMG ammo, by the way. Both this encounter and the last encounter with Brenner, I believe he's called, you're gonna run out of LMG ammo, so you gotta be careful on when you interact with the ammo boxes and try to not die while doing so. In this room, there's not too much of an issue, like you can run back pretty easily and just interact with the box while shooting right from over there. But for the last room, it's a major pain in the ass trying to get the ammo. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Right as we start, we're gonna drop the decoy right on the center, and we're gonna start shooting all of the enemies that we can find. For this room in particular, I almost always get around 4 sniper dogs in this room, so you gotta be careful with those. If it's possible, try to shoot them at their legs, which is where they're most exposed. But if you're unable to shoot at the legs, then try to shoot at their weak point right next to their laser. That way you should be able to stop them for a little bit. And as always, if you destroy a dog, you're gonna EMP all of the robot enemies inside of the room. Now I wasn't able to get the weak point or the legs, but I still managed to destroy that dog. And everyone got EMP, including another dog, which is to my right, if I remember. Yeah, right on my right. And even though this position doesn't have any cover, like still, it's a pretty decent position to fight from. Also, I forgot to mention, if you are confident or slightly confident that you're gonna get down by an enemy, I always suggest propping the active modifier. That way you can get a damage reduction for 20 seconds and have the chance at trying to kill as many enemies as possible before either you get down or you don't suffer that much damage and you get a pretty decent amount of bonus armor. Luckily for my case, I got the bonus armor without getting damaged that much. And although we are already like 10 minutes into the run, I always give the advice that every time you get a kill with one of the LMGs, you switch to the other one and start reloading it with the frenzy talent. That way you can get like, you can avoid the variety buff debuff. And you're also able to keep the frenzy for as much time as possible. It's very important to use frenzy, like the damage buff from that is pretty much like it has nothing to compare it to. That's why I also stay silent for so long. Nah, I'm just kidding. I just derp in the middle of like trying to narrate this video. Also a bit tired. Also like, what is it? 1:30 a.m. already. I'm trying to just narrate this video before going to bed. It's already a little bit too late, but anyways, right as we kill the boss, there's a box right over there. Yeah, you can open for another prototype drop, and on the next room, there's going to be a lock on that door over there, and there's gonna be a gear chest right where I shot at. That's another prototype gear drop that you can get for this mission. After that, there's pretty much no gear chest on the rest of the mission, or at least that I remember of. I didn't try to look for the other any other chest right until the boss fight. So yeah, we can pretty much just focus on trying to focus on the actual mission. There's a few resource chests that you can always grab, but I really didn't want to waste that much time for this run. It was already pretty long. So anyways, we're gonna start by dropping a decoy right on the lower floor so we can get the attention of the enemies. We're gonna focus on the enemy on the left hallway, right on our floor where we at. It doesn't matter if it is a dog or an NPC, just kill it. And then we're gonna try to kill as many enemies on the lower floor as possible before we start getting fired by any enemy that's on the second floor on the right. In my case, I got shot pretty early, so I had to stay over here. And the positions where I like to stay at are pretty much right on that column where I'm at, and this column where I started my fight. Those are pretty much the best vantage point. You can block the enemy line of sight, and you're also able to shoot the enemies from a fairly secure position. You just gotta be careful with the enemies that try to flank you. If any enemy tries to get upstairs, I always suggest just targeting them. And this room almost always has at least one chonga. I suggest that you focus on that one whenever it's possible. And try to shoot his chain if you're not able to like focus all your DPS on him. Also wonderful game design. I got shocked by the red box on my back and then the hot foot bar failed. So yeah, thank you Massive. And also always try to prioritize those stupid dogs with the miniguns. Now there should be 2 more enemies right before I finish. Come on. There should be 1 more. Nice network lag. And because it's the last enemy, I'm using the hunter gun so that I don't waste any more high quality ammo stacks. Now grab all of the LMG drops that you can find on that room. There was 1 drop right on the beginning part of this encounter, so I'm gonna grab that one, and I'm gonna drop down directly towards the sewers, the sewer thing. I almost never grab ammunition on that part. I usually rely exclusively on the ammo drops from the enemies. Gonna reload my first LMG. And there's gonna be 4 enemies on this beginning part. You can also find dogs, both the turret ones and the sniper ones. But most of the time you're gonna find just human enemies. Now once you go past that door, we're gonna throw a decoy right over there. And this is the place where we are gonna be fighting the rest of the first enemy wave. There's 3 enemies. We can shoot the barrel to make the guy that stays on that cover stand up and kill them. That trick always works for all of my runs. And right as we are going upstairs, we're gonna get another wave of 3 enemies. Look at the door to your left, because sometimes you can get at least 1 or even 2 enemies to spawn from over there. And once you kill the enemies on the left door, we're gonna run all the way to that box, and that should allow us to give us a decent position to kill the last enemies. From there, we're gonna pull the lever. And we're gonna just focus on rushing towards the door. It doesn't matter what we do, the enemies are gonna spawn after a few seconds. So it's best to just rush and try to get into cover. Now we can kill pretty much all of the enemies from over here. There's 2 enemy waves, I believe, of 4 enemies each. And we gotta be careful that the enemy on our right doesn't take the turret. Those swords are pretty annoying to kill, mainly because of their wanky hitbox. After we kill the last enemy, we can now run towards the next lever. If you have some ammo on one of your LMGs, use that leftover ammo to shoot at the red wheel. If not, just use your pistol. Right as we open the door, we're gonna drop a decoy right as we gain movement of our character, and we're gonna run towards the right. And we're gonna focus on killing as many of the enemies that we have over there as possible. Sometimes the enemy will try to rush you, but because we have contagion, we're gonna spread coronavirus towards them and get the 40% damage debuff against the NPCs. That's a really good way to spread the debuff for all of the enemies towards the back. But if you're unable to get it, then there's not too much of an issue. Also, enemies will try to rush you from the left, but again, the Corona debuff will help a lot. And we can take care of pretty much all of the enemy wave from right over here. Also, I previously shot the red flammable box right on the window frame thing. Try to shoot it as soon as possible so that you're able to take cover on that piece of cover and we don't get put on fire by a random enemy. And I'm gonna be finishing the last 2 enemies with the gun thing. Gun thing. That's a curious word. So let's get closer towards that guy, and there we go. Now for next encounter, you can grab all of the ammo drops on the floor. I think with either 2 or 3 is gonna be enough to do the next part. We're gonna interact with the crane controls, and as soon as we get movement of the character, we're gonna drop another decoy and run to our right. Then we're gonna equip one of our LMGs and we're gonna take cover on that box towards our left, and we're gonna spawn camp any enemies that are spawning from that door. Sometimes you get only 1 enemy, sometimes you get like 5. It doesn't matter what happens, like just try to spawn camp those enemies. If you're able to get close enough, you're gonna be able to spread Corona towards them, like I did with that Grenadier, and you're gonna get a ton of damage against the enemies. And be careful from many enemies spawning towards your right, because it doesn't matter where you're standing, those enemies can keep spawning. But again, the Corona debuff is gonna help us a lot on doing as many damage as possible. Now there was a guy right over there, so I was trying to do a desperate chicken dance to try to not get, try to not proc the X to the club, and it worked, so yeah. LMG move, I guess. And yeah, after you kill all of the enemies from this room, we are gonna run towards the ammo box, and we're gonna fill out our ammo. There's another ammo box right before the boss fight, but I like to just start filling my ammo early. It doesn't matter when you fill it, but I like to do it this way. And yeah, after we empty out both of our LMGs, we can start with the next room, which is right over this helipad control thing on the elevator. Now, on this room where we are just starting at, there's gonna be 2 more gear loot caches. To get inside that room, we're gonna shoot that yellow box over there. We're gonna jump that window frame, and we're gonna shoot the second box. After that, we're gonna be able to interact with this keypad, and there's gonna be 2 cache, one over there and one over there. Those are the last caches that I found on this mission. And from there, we can start with the final boss fight. After we get up this ladder, using our quick step, we're gonna climb over this fence. Right as we are getting inside the room, we're gonna throw a decoy behind that piece of cover and we're gonna hide over here. We're gonna start focusing on the turret weak points. If we're able to kill like one or two enemies from each side, then by all means go ahead. But if not, it doesn't matter. We can still take the turret weak points. It's very important that we do so that we have free movement towards all of this room. And I mean, as much of free movement as we can because the enemy spawns and especially the way the boss reacts is pretty annoying. We won't have that many places to move around. Also, be careful with how you deal with your dive rolls because sometimes you can get stuck if you're using the default diving controls like I am. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good place to stay, I think, in general, both to kill all of the enemies. Also, try to focus on the dogs. Those are pretty annoying. Try to do it before the boss spawns. And we can stay over here to deal with all of the enemies and take cover from Banner. Right where I'm at, we can block his line of sight and be able to deal with all of the enemies. And every time he calls his mortars, we can run back towards this block and stay behind cover to try to avoid the mortar before going back towards our position. Also, like on that box where I took cover, we can also go towards the left, and that should give us enough space to loosen up our hot foot bar and be able to shoot the NPCs on this room. I'm going to be focusing first on the NPCs. Those are going to be far more annoying than trying to avoid Brenner marksman rifle shots. So yeah, you can always like move either to the right or to the left. Both of the pieces of cover should work pretty good for this part. There's two more NPCs, but it's gonna take me a little bit because they are suppressed behind that piece of cover, and I really don't have too much maneuvers to like try to get those enemies. And also, this is the first phase of Renner 5, by the way. As soon as we do around 50% of his armoring damage, he's going to proc an armor plate. He's going to get all of his health towards 100%, and we're going to start the second phase. Before we start a second phase, it's very important that we run towards the back of the room and fill out our LMG ammo because otherwise we're going to run out of ammo. And let me tell you, I already wiped twice because of that. So yeah, get that ammo before starting the second fight of Brenners. And after you feel comfortable filling out your ammo, all of that, we can just focus on like staying behind one piece of cover and trying to shoot Brenner. He's always going to alternate between marksman rifle shooting phase and mortar phase. Right as he's calling the mortar, we have a ton of time to try to shoot him in the face and get his armor towards 50% before we start the next phase. And if we're able to, we should try to kill Brenner while he's on the left side. That way, we don't have to evade him for that long because he's gonna have a pretty aggressive attitude. He's gonna try to get as close to us as possible while on his second phase. So anyways, he's already parking his armor plate, so we're about to start his second phase. Right as he's starting, I suggest you drop another decoy behind one piece of cover. That way, the yellow enemies, especially Brenner, won't be able to destroy it. And there's gonna be between two or three enemy waves that are gonna be spawning on the back of the room on both the left and the right. We can stay right on the piece of cover that I already mentioned, and we should be able to take care from most of the enemy wave from over there. Ideally, I suggest that you take care of the NPC waves while you have Renner running around like a fool, trying to shoot your decoy or trying to shoot you, which is just annoying. After you kill all of the NPCs, we're pretty much safe from that Renner doesn't recover all of his armor from one of the enemy mutators. Don't remember what the name of that mutator was, and we should be able to just focus on Brenner. And it doesn't matter like if you're in a tight spot or you just want to finish up the fight in a secure manner, you can proc the active modifier to get a 90% damage reduction and be able to kill Brenner during that 20-second window. And that's pretty much it for DARPA Research Lab. Um, Overall, as I said, the mission is a little bit tricky. It's not the hardest mission. I mean, I don't want to say it's an easy mission, but it's definitely not the hardest mission of the game, like something like our museum, which is one of the missions on the weekly rotation pool or something like that. But yeah, also my usual advice is to always equip the weapon that you want to level the augment of so that you're able to get the XP for that weapon for the augment upgrades. And as already showed on the stats, I have around 186% critical hit damage, around 200% all weapon damage plus LMG damage, and yeah, I'm doing a ton of damage. Oh, and also around 17% of echo, between 18 and 17 depending on the LMG. And as already showed some of the weapons that I got. I actually got a tactical M249 with critical hit chance. Oh no, damage to armor and strain. It was a pretty good one to get from this run. So yeah, that was pretty much DARPA Research Lab. If you like the video, you can like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I read all of your comments, and thank you guys for all of the support so far. So yeah, that's DARPA Research Lab. Let's just wait for the summary so I can wrap up this video. Come on. And there you go. 24 minutes, 21 seconds, and 143 kills.